Oh, guys, good, you hear? I am so excited. Guess what? I hope this isn't about your podcast again. Why, did you finally listen to it?
Da-da-da-da, 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 the Groomer Next Door production.
Hello, pups and kids. Well, before we actually kick off this week's show, I wanted to send out a congratulations to both Kesha and Troy Allison on their recent marriage. They were married on Friday, and I wanted to put this out there for all of you to actually send congratulations out to the nice couple on their recent marriage. Now, on to the podcast.
And now a message from our friends at Fetching Food.
The 1970s and 80s had Elbow, Gravy Train, Purina, Meow Mix, and Bell Bottoms. You've changed your clothes, now change how you feed your pet. Like Bell Bottoms, kick the kibble and join us in the 21st century with the healthiest diet for dogs and cats. Feed naturally, feed raw, feed Fetching Foods.
Groomer Next Door Podcast.
Dun 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 dun.
Aim from Missouri. That's all I know.
Hello, pups and kittens, and welcome to another fun-filled and informative episode of the Groomer Next Door Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Green, and joining us this week is a spiritual guru. She really is absolutely delightful and really honestly calming. One of these people that we can just all kind of zen to. It was really, really fun to be able to talk to her and have her on the podcast. We are joined this week by Sarah Stone. She is just, I guess another way of looking at it is kind of like a dog whisperer in the spiritual side. So, before we actually have her on the podcast, let's get into the fact of the week. The phrase, raining cats and dogs, originated in the 17th century England. During heavy rainstorms, many homeless animals would drown and float down the streets, given the appearance that it had actually rained cats and dogs. Kind of weird. I mean, really is weird. Never will I ever use that phrase ever again. Well, by that sound, Sarah is about to enter the podcast studio. So with that said, welcome Sarah Stone to the podcast.
Oh, hello. Hold on a sec. Dad, we have a guest on the podcast.
All right, this week on the podcast, we have a spiritual guru joining us. She's got the greatest intuitive healing and animal communication. We are joined this week by Sarah Stone. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Christopher, thank you so much for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. And you know, I absolutely love being able to have really unique and fun conversations with people from all over. And I am not going to doubt, even by the slightest, that we are going to have a blast.
Yes, I agree.
So tell us your origin story. Everything always has an origin story, and I love hearing everybody's.
Well, I'll just start with where I am right now and back up as quickly as I can. Right now, I open channels for animals, and I start with God, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, and they send in the perfect help. We got so much help available to us. And I tune into an animal. I do people too, but I tune into an animal, and then they'll show me where they're going to do the healing work and cleanse, go to certain organs, or they'll show me if there's pain or a lot of stuff stuck in the energy field. We get cleaned up. I mean, there's about 15 different shows we could have on this subject. But now, so, and then from anywhere in the world, if somebody calls me, I get a little bit of information and about age, rescue or not, and then I will set aside usually 4 to 5 hours to channel on this one animal. So I tune in, they show me what's going on. We can get information to the animal, from the animal. I record the whole thing, but the recording's usually about a half hour because I'm just explaining the highlights and what's going on. So Now, how did that start? Is I grew up on a horse farm in Washington, and I knew how much I loved animals, and I always believed they had thoughts and feelings, but not to the extent I know now. So, let's see, about 25 years ago, I was living in Connecticut, and I heard about some lady doing this healing. So I went there, and after she would do this healing for an hour or so, I felt so light, and all my, fears, the head trauma stuff was just released. And I said to her, my God, how do people live without this? And she said, well, there's drugs and alcohol and all the different things people can do. And, but anyway, I learned how, and it was slow. But I just was doing some hands-on work on myself, because I wanted to learn to help myself, because I felt this world, something's wrong. It never felt quite right. Maybe now it does, but so I learned to do hands-on healing on myself. Again, not using up people. So then I was with insurance for 16 years with MetLife. I moved out to Nevada, and I was traveling constantly. I might have been home 1-2 days a week, but I had to take care of the 10 western states. So anyway, long story short, I couldn't handle that anymore. I went to do pet sitting for my pet sitter, and it was the first time my heart really blossomed and opened up. It was so at that point, I decided, let me try this healing on the animals if they were sad or limping or sick or something. And, a change would occur, but I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe, because I had growing up in a scientific family, it didn't make any sense that anything like that could work. And I barely even believed in God at that point. I don't even think I was aware. And so then my pet sitter, she owned the company, she said, hey, I'm going to set you up around town, and you're going to go to people's houses and do this for them. I'm like, no. I said, I can't do that. And she goes, yes, you can. Look at, there's a difference. And so so many times I pushed through extreme fear to this point. But so I'd go to the homes, and I'd be bending over the animals with my hands on them. And, it was very painful for me after a while. You'd need chiropractic work, and they'd get up and run around like it tickled them and whatever. So I said to my life coach at the time, who actually works with your higher beings that help us, he said, oh, you have to learn to do it at a distance. And I really thought she was super crazy. Really, that was the dumbest thing I ever heard. How can hands-on even work? I said, how am I supposed to do that? And she said, you know what, you'll be guided. And literally, that was my training. So I called my sister up in Washington. I was in Nevada, and I said, are any of your horses having any problems? And she said, yeah, I got this one with the laminitis that's very painful for a horse. It's a hoof disease, and a lot of times they have to be put to sleep. I said, I have no idea what I'm doing, but just stay on the phone with me, and I'm going to try something. And it was real interesting. In my vision, with my eyes closed, I started seeing an outline of a horse. And I was just watching, and I could see these things come, I call them angels, but I don't see wings on them. They're just these healing, benevolent, wonderful creatures, but I do call them angels. And they came swarming in, and they were really all around the horse. I'm thinking, what about her feet? Her feet. So they were clearing all sorts of energy, stuck energy around this horse. Is looking back now that I know what was happening. And then they eventually got to her feet. And I'm like, okay, now maybe something's really happening. Because, when you're seeing this, you doubt it. Is this really true? I mean, is this for real? And so the next day, the horse was out. It could barely hobble. Went trotting around the pasture and was feeling real good. And I was like, well, that wasn't this. That's a coincidence. There's no way. So it took me years and years and years of doing this to finally believe something was really happening. And people just kept calling me from referrals. And I never turned anyone down, but I was terrified every single time. Now I'm at the point where let's do it, because I know we're going to get a lot of help. But that's how it started. So I just followed my guidance somehow. And now I'm at this point where I'm just totally confident that we're going to get all the help we need for each and every animal's issue. It doesn't matter what the issue is, mental, emotional, physical, doesn't matter. The angels go in and make a difference. And then I record it, like I said, and we go from there.
I think that with dogs and cats, they're so innocent, and you're able to get past so much. With a human adult, you look at us, we've got so much complexity. But you look at a kid, and they're very synonymous with a dog and a cat. The innocence is there. So there's nothing, no barriers, no walls. It's right there. And it's like, I look at dogs and cats every day in my shop.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I look at them, I talk to them, and I always joke around and say, for one, I get along better with dogs and cats than humans, which is actually, it's true. And the second part to that is I always joke around with the fact that dogs and cats like me more than humans, which, I still believe that too, which I'm okay with that.
Me too.
But you look at it, and it's like they're so innocent and sweet, and it's so easy to connect with them. And it's very hard to connect with a human, as weird as that may be.
Well, humans have all sorts of walls up, but what just is interesting, comparing animals and children, I really see most animals as just about like a 6-year-old child in feelings, thoughts, and emotions. I have found that each and every animal is as different as each and every person in the levels of intelligence, sensitivity, or empathicness, wisdom, the happy-go-lucky, a controlling personality, whatever it is. They're all very, very specialized. Each one is different. And I find that personality is in the spirit, because when we check on them on the other side, just a lot of people want to just get some relief of what's going on the other side. That personality comes through. So it's really interesting. Some are so incredibly wise and full of wisdom, and some are just like not so smart, but they really can absorb what's going on in their home life.
It's funny that you actually give them a 6-year-old mentality. I still go between 3 and 5. Mostly 3 and 4 is where it is, because they can't communicate.
It's true. They're just they just remind me so much of young children, for the most part. Some are just so full of wisdom. You've seen them. You can look in their eyes and think, wow, this guy knows something. But anyway, that's...
I completely understand, and that's what really opened up this whole communication between us, is the fact that, I say it all the time, I talk to dogs and cats, and I do believe that they do talk back. It's just, can we actually listen? And that's one thing I tell my daughter all the time, is you need to learn how to talk, but not as much talking. You need to learn how to listen to them. And she says to me all the time, well, how do I learn? And I says, you just have to be able to open up and understand. Like, we have a new Akita, and 6-month-old little boy, and he's done nothing except for live in a dirt patch. So he has very little understanding of what the inside home life would be. And at this point, I'm teaching him that it's okay. We go outside, we go into the front yard. You don't have to have a leash on. You have freedom, but here's your parameters. And here's a dog who has only been in a large open area, could run anywhere it wants, and I don't have that mass amount of room, but being able to teach him, hey, these are your spots you can go to. And that was the first test, is, can this happen? Because I don't live in the country, opposed to the idea where I'm at. I still have a nice little suburban area with houses and lots of cars and stuff like that. So, it's a trafficked area, lots of cars go by, and, it's a little scary, especially with a new dog. And he's finally, after 3 days, 4 days, he was able to go out and come back. That was great. But the real challenge was to try to figure out, and I still don't understand this, he did not like the idea of walking outside the house. Wouldn't go through the doorway. It was almost as if he was afraid every time he left,
he wasn't coming back.
Exactly. Yeah, that was exactly the idea I had to it, too. And I was like,
yep,
you're coming back in.
Oh, we work with so many rescues. They are just waiting for the rug to be pulled out from them again. It was an experience. They just are thinking it's going to happen again. The smarter they are. And so I love working with the rescues, because we let them know, and I communicate to the angels to communicate to the animals, and they do a download. So I'm not actually going direct, but I ask the angels to let them know everything that transpired in their past, and we can also see what it was, what they went through. And a lot of times they are so heartbroken that they literally create health issues. But that's what we go in and release this, letting them know exactly what transpired and why. And the angels know. So I don't know, but they do. And then I ask them to make sure the rescue knows, if it's true, this is his forever home, and that will never, ever happen to him again. And it instantly makes such a huge difference in their fear levels. A lot of times they'll see or go poo-poo in the house because they're trying to hang on. Or a broken heart from their old family can lead to urinary tract infections. Somehow. Don't ask me how. But we clear up the broken heart, and the urinary tract issue goes away, and they stop wetting in the house. So it's real. It's so unlimited what the angels can do. But so yeah, the animals feel like you could be so depressed and so sad and put a great big smile on your face because you don't want your dog to know, but they feel what's going on. So, and the more sensitive ones can really suck it up and get sick over it, or develop behavioral issues trying to deal with it. So a lot of times we do have to do healing on the people because it's affecting the animal so much with behavioral issues or physical. But I have to do all distance healing. If I'm in the room with an animal we're working on, I can't look at them because there's judgment in my brain, in my head. So when I'm not looking at them, I can see in my vision what's really going on. I can see how they think, what they're feeling, their thoughts, feelings, and emotions, which is what generally causes every behavioral or health issue. And we go through and clear up whatever thoughts, feelings, and emotions are creating an illness. Or like I've actually seen tumors come out. Not every time. We don't get it every time for whatever reason. I have to accept what the universe has to offer here, but I have seen tumors come out by releasing certain emotions from the animal. And I'm not doing it, but the angels are explaining to them what's really going on in such a way that brings them a whole big universal picture of understanding. Sometimes, before we come here to Earth, I'm not getting this stuff from books. It's what I've been shown. We literally have what is called a blueprint, and we work with our angels and guides, our entourage, of what we want to learn this lifetime. And boy, there's some wicked lessons, as we all know. But you learn the most from the hardest ones. But we ask for certain things in our life. And so sometimes we go and I ask if it's okay if the animal sees this person's blueprint to understand it's all perfect. Everything's going just on schedule, as bad as it might look. And that helps tremendously. Or if they're missing somebody, a person or an animal who has crossed over to the other side, I ask the angels if it's okay, can they go see where they are? And they always say it's okay, but I ask first, and they go and they see them, and they may sit there a little while. We do this with people too, and it's the most amazing transformation of grief healing. It just is stunning to me every time, but I could see them, and it's, oh gosh, the other side's fantastic, you know. And the same angels, the pickup angels I call them, pick up the humans that pick up the animals. So we do go the same place. Boy, I swear I could do a show on any one of these topics, but God seems to, I had an issue with this. What are the animals? So I asked God, it took a long time to get a real clear, solid answer, but God loves his animals, and he has them here for us, and they are support. And if I couldn't look in a dog's eyes, or a cat's eyes, or be around an animal, I would not know what love really is. That's how I feel. If I need to feel love to clear out any negative energies, I think of looking in a dog's eyes. So, anyway, I just kind of rambled there and went on and on. There's so much to talk about, but this is how we work with changing behavioral issues and health issues. There's always a reason, no matter what it is. And it's totally awesome to get to help.
It really is. And, you know, it's funny because I, every morning, wake up and my two Akitas now, they run up to me and I get to look at them and say hi to them, and Oliver, which is one of our rescue cats, will come up, and, you know, it almost kind of feels, in a sense, the only analogy I can really push is think of Snow White when she's in the forest and all the animals run around her. Not saying I'm Snow White, but, you know, kind of a simple kind of metaphor here. And that's what it kind of feels like sometimes, and, you know, you get your day started that way.
Oh, it's the best. I think you may be the same way, but I like animals far more than humans. I could live a life with just the animals. But look at what that does for you to have your animals there with you and showing and sharing their love for you, no matter what. It really does us a huge favor.
It does. It does. I mean, you know, I can look to whenever I sit on the couch, we watch a movie, and the dogs are around, the cat's around, our daughter's around. I mean, it is a complete package. Yeah, and it's so nice. And, you know, there's simple things in life. That's why I really always advocate, let's take care of our dogs and cats like we do our kids, because they're really a massive support system to us. Yeah. They mean everything to us. We have a terrible day at work, and you just kind of go home, and for some reason they're able to pick you up. Oh. Like, hey, I'm glad you're here.
I know. No matter what, they're so happy to see us.
Hey, you're happy to see me. You're the first person today happy to see me. Thank you.
Yeah. That's why pet sitting was so fun in the beginning. You know, I don't do it anymore, but that was, gosh, there's no people there, and you walk in, and those animals were so excited. Mm-hmm. It was just the most greatest thing I ever did in my life. But anyway, you know, you had mentioned about your daughter Claire and wondering how to communicate with the animals. It's so much more simple than you can even ever imagine. Now, what she might want to try doing, because I think she's very sensitive to this and can learn it very easily, is if she wonders how an animal is feeling, and it's much easier to do it for other people's animals than your own. You're so connected with them. So if she looks at someone else's dog. Even walking down the sidewalk, she can say, how does that dog feel about life in general? And she may see an outline of a dog just sitting there and look at that, and it'll show an emotion, whether he's just super happy or he's really very sad inside for some reason, or whatever's going on, you can see it. But I can only do it through my vision, not looking straight at him. But she can do that. And then it's really simple to ask the angels to help this animal with whatever it needs. And if she just and then you wonder, well, did it work? You have to trust it's working. It really, really works. I've got thousands of hours of recordings of animals that completely changed after the angels worked with them and spoke with them. And so it's very real. Although it took me most of all these years to believe it. Believe me, I couldn't believe it, and I was doing it. So now I get it. But she can do it. Anybody can do it. But you have to get your head out of the way and just feel, what is this animal feeling? Is there anything they want to say? And you have to learn to trust. It's funny how way back when this lady had rescued greyhound, and she had called me for the communication session, and like I say, I was always so terrified, but I did it anyway for some reason, and I just had a lot of angelic support, I think. But anyway, one of the questions she asked me was, is there anything my dog wants that she doesn't have? And all I could see was a picture of a carrot, and I'm like, oh my God, please give me anything other than that. I cannot say the dog wants a carrot. And so I'm just begging and realizing I'm going to have to say something here, and I'm looking, and it's starting to look pillowy, and I'm like, oh, I said, really scared, I said, does your dog have a stuffed carrot? And she goes, oh yeah, it's in the garage, it needs to be repaired. And I said, well, she wants that. But inside I'm like, are you dirty word kidding me? So I started to learn to trust what I was being shown, what I was given for information. Now it's 100%. Everything that comes through, I know exactly. But that's how it all started. You have to just learn to trust what you're getting. And it truly is helpful for the animals to know what they want.
It's tough. I mean, it's tough. I mean, that's being able to even trust your instincts. That's what it always comes down to. That's how I always look at it. It's like, is that really what he wants? Are you sure?
I know. Believe me. Now, like I say, I trust it because I've been shown over and over and over that this is the case. So my whole world is not really like on this world. It's a whole other place, but I love it. This world is kind of hard to live in, but we do it.
We do. We survive in it. I think we all, no matter if people, believe spiritually or religiously or both or not at all, I think we all live in our own little personal bubbles. We all have our own spots, and that's what makes it unique. And a lot of us look at our dogs and cats as, and it always drives me nuts, but as property. Who cares what they're thinking? And it's like, I do.
They don't believe they have thoughts. I mean, how can you look in those eyes? First of all, how can they do what they do if they don't have a spirit and thoughts and feelings and emotions? It's crazy for people to think they're just dumb as rocks. There's nothing in there. They have a brain and feelings, and some people just don't get it. I think most of us do. Thank goodness.
Yeah, luckily. Well, let's go on to one of my favorite questions. Besides the origin story, my next one is that everybody has a soapbox moment. And, some people consider it pet peeves. I always state the soapbox moment. Mine is, of course, going into any kind of big box store and seeing dry kibble and people buying it by the boatload, and it's the worst stuff out there, and I just want to have the giant soapbox moment and try to tell people. But I'm always curious what other people's soapbox moments are like.
Well, the one that pops into my mind is vaccinations.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called a titers test, and that tests if the antibodies are still working, if it's still strong in the immune system, and they always are. But it's the pharmaceutical companies make billions of dollars a year, and the veterinarian offices keep the lights on by getting them in every year for vaccinations. Well, it's killing them. First of all, I'm not sure how old you are, but when I was a kid, they got 1 or 2 vaccinations, but now, I don't know how many they get, 6, 8 a year, I don't know, it's just a ridiculous amount. And the problem is, they really, from proof of the titers test, really only need them once.
Mm-hmm.
I know this one girl who's been using it for 12 years, the titers, and they still don't need the vaccination. So every time they keep getting pelted with these foreign substances that got mercury and all sorts of bad stuff. Well, first of all, these are my feelings. I highly recommend anybody Google it and study it on the internet. But I have found that right after, 2 weeks after vaccinations, I've seen so many in kidney failure, liver failure, cancer starts showing up. You just can't keep doing this in these amounts every year. There is even a vet on the internet. You could go to YouTube and say vet talking about too many vaccinations in front of governmental people. And he just has a fit about it. He says, if I know this amount's going to kill this dog, I legally have to give that dog that amount. I can't give it, So he's fighting that this is wrong. And, they didn't care. But so really, it's vaccinations. You've got to watch them. I think they're good the first time, and then just go with the titers test, and they'll stay much healthier.
What's really
it sounds odd. Mm-hmm.
What's funny about the way that this entire month goes for the series is that the previous episode is with Dr. Rob, who is literally the person you're talking about titers and pushing this, going, we're over-vaccinating.
Oh.
That's what made this whole, lineup so perfect, is that we can go to the science one week, and the next week we can have a great conversation with you about the spiritual side. So it all works itself out kind of in a funny way, and it's funny that you mentioned it, because it's just how the cards actually fell.
Oh, interesting.
So I thought that was kind of funny when you said it, because we didn't talk about, who's coming up, the next couple ones. It was just something that just happened. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, I think it's all meant to be. People need to hear this. I had a customer whose dog has a bad heart, and she actually was collapsing, and she was all terrified. And so I went in and I looked, and I said, because I can see, are they ready to go or not? They'll either head towards, it's my upper left, it gets real bright, and the angels are waiting if it's time for that animal to go, or they'll pull back or turn their back to it in my vision, the animal will. This dog definitely pulled back, so I didn't want her to rush in and put her to sleep. And she said, well, I have an appointment in the morning, and I'm going to get her vaccinations. I'm like, she's 8 years old. I was like, oh, my God, that will kill her right now, for sure. And she just didn't. People think they're doing the best thing, and it's so bad. Oh my gosh! I know over-vaccinating. Listen, in my opinion, we're over-vaccinating the kids too. It's kind of sad, but when I was a kid, we got measles, polio vaccination, just 2 or 3, and now they're making up so many just to make money. in my opinion. Again,
it's really it's funny because we have a lot of veterinarians that come on the podcast, and they're all saying the same thing. We're over vaccinating. Of course, the people that are on are holistic, so it's we're not peddling the typical mundane kind of thing, but the message that we are putting out there is, hey, here's facts. Here's somebody who has the DVM at the end of their name. They've got the knowledge. Let's trust these people, and that's kind of the whole thing. And there is the science showing. Yes, we're between dry kibble, which of course is my biggest thing. Between that with the chemicals that are in there, and with the over vaccinations, we're just doing so much harm. And here's just something that honestly, a dog and cat has a different. Well, I mean, besides the fact that they're completely different anatomy wise, they don't need what we need. They need to be specifically fed the proper way. And I mean, there is no instruction manual of, let's add this science and this science and that. No, it doesn't need to be. It's a very simple formula. And
again, to me, it's about money. Yeah. When back to when I was a kid again, the foods were very simple. They weren't loaded with GMO corn and horrible stuff. It was just simple food. Yeah. I just turned 60, so I mean, I'm talking a long time ago, but over the years, they bulk it up. They would just want to make it taste good and sell more. Yeah. And cheap as possible and make as much money as possible, sadly. Yeah. But yes, vaccinations and food are my two hugest pet peeves. So you really got to read that label. Technically, in my opinion, if there's something in there you wouldn't want to eat, there's a lot of good raw foods already made, good recipes you can make yourself. Just make sure they get their vitamins and minerals. And like just plain chicken, they would love, but they got to get their vitamins and minerals too. So, oh gosh, we could go on forever and ever and ever on this stuff.
Well, that's food, yeah. That's the funny part. There's 200 and some episodes of pretty much just that. So I'll kind of stay in the spiritual side. That's kind of where we talk about all these things so much, and obviously there's the two big main components that are the biggest harm. But we need to be able to communicate better. And that's where you have that ability where I feel like I speak, I'm bilingual in dog and cat, but I don't know if I really can say I speak it as well as I wish. I can understand it somewhat, but you obviously can speak it and understand it.
It was practice. It's learning to believe. I believe you can. Absolutely. It just fell on me this way that I was supposed to do this, and I stuck with it. I could have gone and I walked away from a 6-figure job in insurance and really started struggling along just doing what God said, do this, and I always had what I needed. To me, I had fear, is there going to be enough? Well, I got rid of that finally, because God always is providing. But now it's becoming acceptable, this healing work, and I can make a better living. But one thing, too, when I go into work with an animal, I line up a whole bunch of foods in my vision, and I ask the angels to say, what food should this dog eat, or cat, or lizard, or horse, whatever it is, and what is bad? What if there's any allergies or something like that? Also, then we can go in and readjust structures to release allergies too, but sometimes, most of the time. But so we can go and see what foods are best for them or not. There's so much we can do because the angels know everything. I call them angels. Whatever they are, they're benevolent beings. But they know everything. And so you can learn. It's just that it's not like black and white, double-blind studies, so it's hard to believe what we're getting. But these days, more than ever, you can tune into an animal. It's hardest with your own because, there's so much in the way there, but I know you could. Lots of people could do what I do. They just don't think they can.
Right.
And I didn't think I could, but I've just been doing it for so long now that I finally got it. But, okay, it's really happening. But just from seeing results. So it's pretty awesome. But you can do it. You just have to learn to trust. Like experiment. Maybe a dog that comes in for grooming, just close your eyes and tune in to, like your third eye or wherever you get it, or maybe you'll get it in your gut feeling. How does this dog really feel about life in general? And you will get it, but then it's just trusting. Is that right? Is this dog really depressed, or is this dog really frightened of something, or mostly rescues are so afraid of having to go, get the rug pulled out from under them again and having to go back to the shelter. I love working with the rescues. So helpful.
But it's so difficult because whenever you experience time with these dogs and cats, it's rewarding, but man, is it ever depressing. It's like joining me right now is we call him Gray Socks. He was dehydrated and looked to be dying on the street corner, and we picked him up. And
good.
This cat has so much. I mean, you might hear him meow in the background. But he does not like to be cooped up in the house. I never understood any of these different attributes that this cat has. Loves to come in when I'm recording, though. This is one of his favorite things. He loves to come in. If I didn't have...
That's interesting.
He loves this part. So it's always entertaining, and there's times where I'll go, ooh, shiny red ball, because he'll jump in or he'll jump out and he'll see a mouse and he'll go and play. And I always tend to lose track of where I'm at, just like I just did. But
yeah, I know that one.
But it's funny. I look at him and he was complex of so many different things that I've never dealt with any of our hundreds of rescues. And he just was like, look, this is what I need. And I've talked to multiple different people saying, hey, this is what he wanted. This is what, how do you do this?
He's one of the smartest. See, that's a very smart animal. He's very, very smart. Some aren't. So they're different. Some won't be complex like that. But that guy's really super smart. I mean, I can feel it just by you talking. Anyway, keep going.
I just love this guy. I mean, he's the only indoor-outdoor cat that we've ever had, and it's by force. He can't. He will literally die if he was stuck inside.
Yeah, that's
it's
unusual.
And all of the cats that we've saved, he's the first of this particular mentality. It's just interesting. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of different personalities. But yeah, that level of smarts makes a difference, and he's way on the smart, wise end. And a lot of times where you can really help, and you just have to trust it, when you feel very bad for an animal or even a person or whatever, a prayer is so powerful. I ask the angels, in the name of Jesus, seems to make a difference, to please help this animal. Just shine a light, and you can just picture light around the animal. It makes a difference. So if you see one on the street, running, scared, lost, can't just say, rescue angels, please come and help this dog. Guide him to the perfect people. And then you actually feel better because you feel like you're doing something, and you really are. So we have this whole other world and dimension we just don't see with our naked eye that are here to help us, but we have to ask for it for some reason. I guess because we have free will, but you can help
I mean, you could actually take your shelter. You feel terrible about all those animals, and just picture light, this white light, all the way throughout it and around it, and it cleans out a lot of negativity. And I said, that's simple. And the animals are more at peace.
I have a tendency just to jump out of the car, and so is my wife, and pick them up, and that's usually, to each his own.
If you can get them, yeah, me too. I stop in the middle of the road, put my flashers on. Mm-hmm. So that's just like you do, I'm sure. But if you can't get them, you just, and then people will say to me, oh my gosh, I just saw this poor dog running, and so we'll instantly open a channel on him and ask the angels to please guide him, keep him safe, put a shield of protection around him. And you just have to trust that's happening, because it is. If you're asking for it, they're doing it. That's pretty hard to take, I know, but it's really true. I've learned this, and it makes a difference.
And it's funny, and maybe it's just a beacon, that's what I always consider it, but they tend to just walk over towards us, or they'll just show up on our doorstep sometimes. It's like, no, you don't have any more room.
Yeah, I understand that, too. Yes, they know where to go. They know, it's like that, almost a telepathic thing. They feel it. They know where to go. They show up at my house pretty frequently. And, we've got a lot. I'm feeding a lot of animals, spend a lot of time with animals. But, it's just what we do. I feed a lot of us here around this Las Vegas area, and I'm sure everywhere. Almost everyone I know has a colony of cats they feed. And we get them spayed and neutered and put them back out. A lot of them are out there with no claws. They've been declawed. Mm-hmm. And what's been fascinating is I could be down to my last dollar, and God provides the food for these homeless cats. And it's so amazing to me. So it's always provided for. So I spend a few $100 a month on cat food for that. But I don't mind, because it's provided for. I feel like I wouldn't have that money coming to me in that amount if I didn't have these animals to feed. That's how much God loves his animals. He really does.
And he provides.
He definitely provides.
Now, here's the next interesting part. You've got multiple layers of interesting. But now, I think it was starting last year, you started WWDB Radio.
Uh-huh.
And now you sent me one of the actual videos. I was able to watch a little bit of it, and I was just like, oh, cool. So tell us, how did that all begin, and tell us about your show.
Well, I've always wanted to share what really happens in these sessions. I actually worked 2 different times with some producers for a TV show that never panned out. I see why now, because if I had had a TV show 5 or 6 years ago compared to what I know now, it would have been bad timing. I'm much more in the groove now. And on TV, they're going to make it dramatic and look a certain way. And I only want the truth. So this fellow came to me and asked me if I wanted to do a show. And yes, my gosh, yes. I mean, I'd love to have call-ins, and we can work, just communicate with animals instantly, but with internet that doesn't work so well. But so I actually did do a couple of shows and was so disappointed in the editing. I expected so much more that I thought, I'm going to keep paying for this? I don't think so. And so I really didn't continue on with that. I would love to if it could be done right. And I haven't found, I could do it myself on my cell phone, let's face it. But, so I did very few shows, and what I wanted to do, my intention has always been, excuse me, to, have the person share what the issues are with the animal, and then explain what happened after the session. And then play the recorded session. And to show, this is very real. We got a lot of help. and the changes in the animals are always pretty dramatic. So I always wanted to have a show like that. But it's funny, when I went to go to that, to pay them in for the show, for a monthly payment, it was $400 a month or something. The first time, there was this huge accident that covered the whole road. And I thought, that's a sign to me, blocking the way. And then a road was closed, and I got lost trying to get to the studio. And I'm thinking, okay, I hear you. You're telling me don't do this right now. But I did it anyway and was so disappointed with the results. Actually, the information came through, but I wanted to get sponsors to be able to cover this cost every month. And I was too embarrassed to show them the quality of the show. Mm-hmm. But the information was there. So I have shared it a number of times. So I still want to do that because it helps people to understand what's really going on in an animal's head that is creating behavioral issues. And we're talking barking, biting, going potty in the wrong places, chewing things. Virtually every behavioral issue has a reason. Mm-hmm. And that's what we get to. And I really wanted to share that. So I'll get back to it. But I feel like I'm supposed to share it at some point, and it's coming very soon. But I know so much more now that I've been shown. So,
it's funny because anything in media, let's be realistic, whether it's a blog that you're doing, a video blog, or the show that you've done, a podcast, whatever they are, they don't come cheap. And that's the one thing nobody understands, is that this stuff has to be produced. Yeah. And it's a little cheaper if you can do it yourself. Uh-huh. It's a job. And that's the thing. It's like, for everybody, it's free, but there is a cost somewhere along the line. And it is hard. Advertisers to come by, it's difficult. To be able to produce these different things, and there's always a cost that comes with everything. So I get it. I completely get it, and it's challenging. And I could never relinquish creativity to anybody. So I could never have somebody produce this.
I see. Yeah.
It has to be entirely in my hands, because if it's not done a certain way, I don't want to have that deal.
Oh, yeah, especially when it comes to the animals. I don't want anything to make it look more dramatic. I want it real, and I want the truth, period. Right. People need to know to help them.
But, you want to have, like, for your show, when I watched your clips, I was thinking, okay, and now to put it all together, you were looking more for a documentary kind of series, opposed to what really appeared to be more of an hourly show.
Actual cases.
Right. So you wanted to have that doc kind of feel to it. And it was, I'm not sure entirely, but it was like, I almost thought your desk was up to like a green wall or blue screen, and and then they switched the background, and the background was great at all. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it, but if it doesn't meet your needs,
I didn't like it. Yeah, I just couldn't continue because, and the editing, I figured there were certain parts he cut out. It's just crazy, but anyway, I just said, forget this. But I was the angels were trying to stop me from going in the first place. It was so funny. And I knew it, but I was just so anxious to do this for so many years. So we'll get back to it. I actually could do it, just with the recordings I have. Just put them on my website. This is what this animal was doing and how it ended up, and here's what we did in the session. So I could do it that simple, but I just haven't. I was mentioning to you prior, there's been this fear of exposing this, and what the best I've come up with was a lot of healers do have this fear, and it's old stuff from past lifetimes where we were crucified and killed for doing this type of thing because it wasn't normal. So we've gone through lifetimes of honing these healing skills and afraid now of getting killed again. I saw some actual visions where a specific situation that I had a huge following. I don't even know what time it was, and then I decided to try some different things that scared people, and the townspeople came and they hung me over a cliff by my hands till I died, that kind of thing. And so now we're pushing through that old fear stuff, getting rid of all, and where we can, it's kind of hard to get these exact words out so they make any sense, but it's now coming, we're now coming into this new light where it feels safer to get the books out there, etc.
It's like, can you imagine ever, just back in the 1800s saying, I can use a machine that's going to clean my carpet. I mean, stupid little things that would have been considered to be witchcraft. And I completely get that.
Yeah.
Or to say we can heal a broken bone. It's like, as simple as that is, well, if it was 200 years ago, 300 years ago, you would have died from that. Sadly enough, but that's just reality.
And that's, our souls remember all these lifetimes. I've been working on releasing all that no longer serves my highest good to move into ascension, into these new higher dimensions that are available to us, that are just all loving kindness. That's a whole other show for sure. But, yeah, it's, bottom line is I'm feeling like I can now really step out, releasing the fear of these hundreds of years old feelings that I'm going to be killed or tortured. I couldn't understand what it was for the longest time. Why I want to share this so bad, but then I would just stop. No, it's not one word. And so it's different now.
Right. Well, in recap, with your intuitive healing and animal communication, you cover behavioral problems, physical challenges, emotional difficulties, allergy and health issues. And I'm sure that could go, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's always funny to have a conversation about titers, especially with, when it was completely, in a different, almost in a sense, we were going to go from spiritual to science to that. So that was really funny. And it's, I always love hearing just stories from people. That's always my thing. What haven't we covered that we should be covering, or did we cover it?
What's coming up for me right now is the help we can give before, during, and after crossing, no matter where they are in the country or the world. When it's getting time, when an animal does show me it's ready to go, like I had mentioned earlier, it will show me no or yes. And also the guides will show me it's their time is coming very soon. So what we do is we set up a team. We do this for surgeries too, for people and animals. We set up this beautiful team that helps with the process to make it go real smoothly. And then, so if they are to be euthanized, they easily leave the body, which I have a brief story about how I learned that. And then I literally watch when they leave the body. It's just like, it's so much easier than being born, and it's just finally, I feel so good, and it's light, and you might see them out chasing butterflies, or just sitting there and watching for a little while. The angels are always there. It's always light. There's always lots of helpers there. They're never alone. It's never in the dark. And that's a whole another show again. But it's very real. So we help people, and then I share that with the people that are just, have crushed you. It's the worst ever when you lose an animal. But what's going on over there? And we find out what was their favorite thing to do here, so they know we've got the right one. And then frequently we'll go to work on the person really suffering this deep loss. I call it the grief healing, and the angels go in and they will heal their hearts. They'll let them see where their person or animal is on the other side. It's a whole system that we do. And then when they come back, it's just like, wow. It's not like all better, but that horrible pain is lifted. It's the angels do this healing. So we do before, during, and after crossing, which is super helpful. And the animals need it too. The animals that are left behind, the other family members, they can go through terrible grieving as well and get sick over it. A lot of times, like I mentioned one time ago in this interview, goes right to the urinary tract, or they may become depressed and not eat and literally get sick over it. They get hit twice. They miss their friend, and they soak up the people's trauma and grief. So we usually help them out too. But there's all sorts of things, but that's a big one. We help people through the grieving process a lot. And I love that because it makes a difference.
And how can listeners find you?
Well, first of all, my website is sarahstoneonline.com, and that's SARAH Stone, STONE, online.com. And my website is my name, sarahstone2@gmail.com. And I am going to, it's feeling time to put together a newsletter, a monthly newsletter, that will share some cases and why an animal was doing what it was doing, what all we did, the angels did to help them, and just real good information, maybe little tips and whatnot. But I want to start doing that. And if anybody wants that monthly newsletter that I will be sharing these healings one by one, they could email me. But I am going to do snail mail instead of email on the newsletter.
Okay.
Because, so if they want, they would just could email me a mailing address. But I'm really looking forward to that. And it'll help people understand their animals more and why things are the way they are.
And that's always helpful to actually get to that point, because understanding our animals is just so important and so difficult.
It helps them.
Yeah, it does help them.
They so many times are trying to help us with going through hard feelings. And so a lot of times we'll let them know the best thing you can do instead of getting sick or going potty in the house over what mom's going through. The best thing you could do is to be a rock and be grounded and solid. I mean, the angels explain this, and it makes a difference. Oh my gosh, it's so endless what comes up and is fixable. Endless. So.
Oh, well, it's been a pleasure having you on, and thank you for taking us down this road. I mean, it has been definitely delightful and a nice change, because again, we cover so many different areas, and there is definitely a side that we've never actually been able to go down, which is more of the spiritual side, and so I'm really happy that we were able to, share this time with you.
Yeah, it's becoming more acceptable. It's really opening up to this world now. And so I am more than happy to share. So all to help the animals. It really helps the whole family.
It does. Well, I'm Chris Green. Have a fantastic week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, gotta go in my bedtime.